There are some 2,000 U.S. troops on the ground in Syria. Their mission: destroy and defeat the Islamic State.
The way they are doing that is by backing a local militia, which is known as the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is made up primarily of Kurdish fighters in northern Syria.
Like these U.S. Army soldiers in an undisclosed location in Syria, conducting missile strikes against Islamic State positions in support of the SDF. Since 2014, U.S. troops have helped push ISIS out of nearly all of the territory it once held.
Even if you roll back all of ISIS's territory formally, at what point can you say things are stable enough in order to leave and ensure that ISIS 2.0, as some people are calling it, doesn't return?
Depending on whom you ask in the Trump administration, you may get a different answer.
I want to get out. I want to bring our troops back home. I want to start rebuilding our nation.
But again, the hard part, I think, is in front of us, and that is stabilizing these areas, consolidating our gains, getting people back into their homes, addressing the long-term issues of reconstruction and other things that will have to be done. And this, of course, is there is a military role in this.
The comments by the president and General Vodal occurred on the same day, nearly at the same time, 1 mile away from each other.
So I think it's kind of different descriptions of a somewhat similar goal. Neither the Pentagon, nor the White House, nor the State Department wants to stay in Syria in perpetuity.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's closest battlefield allies, Russia and Iran, would like to see the United States and the Syrian Democratic Forces out of northern Syria.
If the U.S. does pull out of Syria, that will give Iran and Russia more leverage. There are certain areas that they would like to occupy that the SDF currently has, including some of the main oil fields in Syria.
But the president's position seems to contradict one of his long-held beliefs.
I was always saying, keep the oil. We didn't keep the oil. Who got the oil was ISIS got the oil, a lot of it. That's what funded their campaigns. They took a lot of the oil, and it was largely responsible for funding. We should have kept the oil then. We didn't keep the oil.
He has strong feelings about who ends up with the resources. On the other hand, if you take U.S. troops out, the idea that you would end up with any sort of resources in Syria or your allies would end up with any sort of resources, you have sort of limited bargaining power there.
The fight against ISIS continues. The group still controls pockets of territory in Syria and neighboring Iraq. Giving those stragglers a chance to regroup is what American officials want to avoid.
How can you ever know what a lasting victory is when you're dealing with an extremist group that is sort of poised to morph back into an insurgency?
By the end of the day on April 4th, it seemed the White House was able to clarify the president's position on U.S. troops in Syria.
As the president's maintained since the beginning, he's not going to put an arbitrary timeline. He is measuring it in actually winning the battle, not just putting some random number out there, but making sure that we actually win, which we've been doing. We're going to continue doing that, and that determination will be made by the Department of Defense and the Secretary of Defense, which the president has given authority to do that. Cecilia?